Scream 7 is now out and it's getting a lot of mixed reviews. Now, with that finally being out, I'm going to go ahead and do a Scream franchise ranking from the worst to the best. So let's get started. Now, the Scream franchise has been one of the most consistent franchises in the horror genre for me and one of my absolute favorites. Scream 1 just came out at that right time for me. Absolutely loved it. Been in love with this franchise since. Now, that doesn't mean I love every movie. Some are much better than others, but even the worst one in this ranking is one I would still rewatch and still like a lot of elements to it. It's just not as good as the ones at the top of the list. So let's move on to number 7. Now, coming in at number 7 is Scream 3. Now, I don't hate this movie. Like I said, I like all the movies in this franchise. Just Scream 3 to me is the weakest and the one I forget about the most. With that being said, it is the only one that has one Ghostface killer, which is unique. However, the whole Roman Bridger being a long-lost relative of Sydney, with it being her half-brother type thing, secret half-brother, it's just very soap opera-ish and just so out there for me that it just doesn't work for me. There are some great elements in here. I like the whole Hollywood set and seeing stuff from the first one that way, in which they've rebuilt like the houses and stuff from the Stab or from the Scream franchise into the Stab movies. Stuff like that's cool. The voice changer that can do multiple voices, do all these different voices, that was a little up there for me. I have moments of this movie that I enjoy, but overall it is the weakest of the franchise for me. Now, coming in at number 6 is going to be Scream 6. Now, this one is set in New York, which I thought was a fresh take. It was cool. And the opening sequence on this one is really good, except for the fact that you find out it's not the Ghostface for the movie because he gets killed off by the real Ghostface. And then you have the subway scene, which I thought was one of the coolest scenes we've had in one of these movies. However, the final Ghostface reveal in this is probably one of the most disappointing. Not quite the most disappointing, but definitely up there as one of the most disappointing. It's brutal, has some of the most brutal killings and some of the most savage killings, I think. But overall, with the final reveal and everything, it just doesn't hit. You never feel like any of the main characters are in danger, and they end up all surviving. Everyone from the previous franchises lives through this one. So it just feels like the stakes were never really high on this one. And with that final Ghostface reveal, it just really drops it for me. And while it is rewatchable for me, it has some really cool scenes, it sits here at number 6. Now, coming in at number 5 is the newest movie in this franchise, Scream 7, which I did a full review for already. And this movie was a tough one. I loved the first 2/3 of this film, but that Ghostface reveal is definitely one of the worst in the entire franchise and dragged this movie down to the number 5 spot. I thought we were on track to have one of the coolest, most brutal, scariest Ghostfaces we've ever had. I loved the whole Sidney Prescott as a mom angle, trying to teach her daughter and trying to protect her daughter. But man, that final reveal was just so bad that it completely destroyed this movie for me, which is why it's here at number 5. Now, coming in at number 4 is Scream 2022, the requel. I thought the whole meta concept with this film was probably one of the best since the first one, where it takes on the whole reboots and requels and all that stuff that have been happening in the horror genre at this time. So I thought that worked really well. The killers are okay. I saw one of them coming from the very beginning almost, so that was a little disappointing. But it's okay. It's not horrible. However, this movie to me showed that the stakes were really high because you have that hospital scene where fan favorite Dewey dies. And you're like, okay, everybody's in trouble this time. And then 6 came out and nobody important died. So it's like, okay, so you're going to start this sequel out this, or this trilogy out this way. And then 6 is going to just be like, and nobody's really in trouble. And then obviously the trilogy ended after that because 7 isn't really part of this trilogy. Even though they might say it is, it's a different director, different team, different leads. It's its own thing. So this really is just Scream 5 and 6 go together. 7's kind of everything after that. Now, like I said, the hospital scene's really great. You have that death that kind of just throws everything into craziness. You have this movie that I think had a good take on what modern horror was doing at the time. Talks about like toxic fandoms and stuff, which is funny because now 7 has some of that toxicity coming out, especially with the boycotts and people hating on the movie, and has a lot to do with legacy sequels. I think this movie did a great job. It did a lot of the things that I liked from Scream 1. It just altogether wasn't as good as the 3 I have above this. Now coming in at number 3 is Scream 4. Now when this first came out, had a lot of mixed reviews. I was a huge fan of it from the beginning because I think it being the last Scream that we're ever going to get from Wes Craven may have just raised it up a little bit for me. But I feel like, honestly, after a bunch of rewatches, it's definitely aged pretty well. Now, it's definitely was ahead of its time, in my opinion. You have the whole social media commentary about fame and stuff through social media. You have the remake culture that it takes on, which obviously remakes have been a great big thing. And I think the killer reveal and the motives were actually pretty decent in this one. Jill has one of the most common, probably, reasons for wanting to do crazy things, and has been one of the things that has happened since the beginning of time, and that is just jealousy. She comes up with a plan because she is jealous of the fame and stuff that Sydney has gotten for everything that she went through, and she wants all that fame for herself. So it's definitely a motive that makes sense in a crazy over-the-top way. And the ending of this movie in the hospital is a pretty brutal ending and had some gnarly scenes in there. Now coming in at number 2 is Scream 2. Now to me, this is probably one of the better sequels in horror in general. It does everything pretty much right, in my opinion. You do the college setting instead of the high school setting, which I think works perfect. The opening theater scene in this movie is super iconic and probably one of the best openings in the franchise. The car scene with Ghostface unconscious, in which they're trying to crawl out, just ups your anxiety, and you're on edge for that entire scene, which is awesome. Probably what I like about 7 is it brought that anxiety back of that anticipation and that on the edge of your seat feel. And the motive for this one is definitely it's personal, it's emotional, it's vengeful. It's a decent reveal. It's a little disappointing for who I thought it might be and who I wanted it to be, but in the end it was a perfect reveal. It's definitely a personal reveal and makes a lot of sense. This movie just builds on the original without copying it too much, which in later movies we feel like they're copying things a little bit too much. This one to me felt very original and brought in what it needed to from the first one, but didn't feel like a carbon copy type movie. Now coming in at number 1, there was really no question here. It's the original Scream. It is, to me, what you would call lightning in a bottle. Like, I don't think it's ever been copied. I don't think it will ever be copied. The way I felt when I first watched it is still how I feel whenever I rewatch it. It reinvented horror. It made slashers smart. It made basically horror satire and terror mix really well. You have that opening scene with Drew Barrymore in which they have probably what was their biggest actress at the time and just kill her off in the beginning of the film. Like, that was epic. It was legendary. You have the Awesome Rules monologue in this movie, in which has carried over through most of the franchise. This is the best one that does it. The killer reveal was probably the most satisfying one with Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. And I still love everything those guys actor-wise do, because this movie, to me, put them on my radar. Billy and Stu will forever be the gold standard when it comes to the Ghostface reveals for this movie, and nothing has yet to match the final reveal of those two. Without this movie, the rest don't exist. And because of that, this one just has to go at number 1. Now that is my Scream franchise ranking 1 through 7. Now I know some of you are probably mad at me, definitely disagree with me. Some of you may agree with me. But let me know in the comments, which movie did I disrespect? Which movie did I overrate? Where do you agree with me? Let's have a conversation about this franchise. Let's have a conversation about horror in general. And if you do like horror and you love movies, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's build a movie community so that we can have more conversations with all of these videos. And I appreciate all the support. Keep watching horror, keep watching movies. Catch you in the next one.